Drums, please.
Hi there, C.Note here, and welcome back to DOPEamine, the show that is all about personal empowerment and helping you unlock your potential. Today on the show, I'm in the great outdoors. I'm actually at a Vietnam War memorial for no specific reason other than I needed somewhere to go. And it's actually kind of windy out today. This is the only time I have to record this, so pardon some of the background noise while I, figure this out. If it's too bad, I just won't post it, but for the most part, I think this is fine. It took me a little while to figure out a setup for this. And if you want to get some of the behind the scenes of like me trying to figure out a spot and talking through the production of this, you can go become a member. Just hit the join button down below. So today I want to talk about what is a dynamic personality. What is dynamic personality? This is a new concept that I've been personally working on and figuring out. And dynamic personality is this idea of it's not a type system, it's a type philosophy. And the type philosophy that I employ with DOPEamine, with my coaching, with my teaching, is that it's about pinpointing where we are, not who we are. Now, personality typology and growth systems are something that we have so much free access to these days. Like you can learn spiral dynamics, you can learn Enneagram, you can learn Myers-Briggs, you can learn all of these different systems. You can even learn about the drama triangle, the empowerment dynamic, all of these systems, the Enneagram, and all of these like systems that I use on this channel, in my teaching, in the back end in our premium programs. And it's a personal philosophy that I abide by, that when I approach personal growth, that when we talk about personality, we also have to talk about personal growth. That's something that Dario Nardi said in his recent book, The Magic Diamond. And dynamic personality is more of a concept, as you would expect from me as an INTP, that it's about a willingness to combine systems and look at this personality system as something that these personality systems as something we can use to like kind of triangulate where we are, right? Like I'm this on spiral dynamics, I'm this in the Enneagram, and I'm this in Myers-Briggs. There's going to be a lot of wind, I apologize. And being able to kind of move dynamically through all of these areas. So the Enneagram is basically the inspiration for this, because the Enneagram is a moving dynamic symbol. When you start to get to know the Enneagram, it is about, you evolve through the wings, and then you actually navigate and have personal revolutions when you go through the arrow lines. But then you can also navigate around the circle to do sort of like a longer term personal, human growth cycle kind of thing. And it's the Enneagram is a spiritual symbol, it's an ancient symbol. And a lot of the things we do with personality related to Jungian psychology, Myers-Briggs, is all a century old at this point, and it's all stuff that we're channeling all of these different ideas from different growth systems to be able to triangulate where we are. And I say where we are because being a dynamic human being and sort of embracing and accepting and understanding that we are a dynamic human being is why some of these systems are so hard, because I think we're just approaching it with the wrong philosophy. If we approach it with a philosophy of growth in mind, being dynamic, being ever changing, then it becomes a completely different thing altogether. It becomes something that when we look or think about the varying descriptions of being an INTP or being in Spiral Dynamics 5 Orange or being a 5-wing 6 when I used to resonate with being a 5-wing 4, it's because we're dynamically growing and changing based on life circumstances, based on our needs, based on our desires, based on relationships, our careers, our mindsets when it comes to usage of money and our environment and community and where we live and whether or not there's wind happening during your production. So all of these things have these interchanging elements to them. And I know we talk about Myers-Briggs being a horizontal model, and Enneagram is mostly a horizontal model with vertical elements. And then we've got Spiral Dynamics, which is a vertical growth model, and we've got all sorts of other ways to triangulate where we are. And if you kind of, you look at it like a graph, it's like you go up or you go over, and you're kind of in this, like, I'm here, in like a heat map kind of way. I'm here, but I'm kind of organically here sometimes. What I really like about spiral dynamics, for example, is that we are consistently, we're not necessarily just in one section all the time. We have kind of like a magnet in the middle of where we primarily are, but based on life circumstances, like if someone were to come and just bum rush me right now and just attack me, that would immediately cascade me down, spiral dynamics levels, and I would have to deal with it in maybe a more primal way, right? And it's the same when you think about like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If you lose your job, suddenly your life circumstances change and you are operating at a different mode. And this dynamic personality idea, this philosophy, this mindset, is all about allowing us and a willingness for us to be more adaptable and malleable to life circumstances. So the frustration that a lot of INTPs have, for example, and what I teach in a lot of my premium programs in the back end, is that INTPs, anyone can get stuck in personality, right? So the Enneagram, Aranio Paez and Beatrice Chestnut, when they're teaching the Enneagram, they talk about being, when you're in personality. Being in personality is being in your persona, being in a place where you're showing up to the world the way you think you're supposed to show up, either based on your natural brain wiring or adaptations to society. Some people adapt to society much easier than others. Some actively, pull against society. And INTPs are ones that naturally we pull against society, but it's still a natural comparison point. Comparison is one of those points where, for anyone in the first tier of spiral dynamics, through beige, purple, red, blue, orange, and green, that through all of those stages, the commonality is comparison, that you're comparing yourself by some means to some other person, mostly 2 through 6, the purple through green, but there's different hierarchical systems for each of these that exist because humans are naturally socially hierarchical. I don't know which word fits there, but the idea is that, we, no matter what we're doing, even if we're INTPs or INTJs or any of these personalities that are naturally kind of like anti-society, think for yourself, even INFPs or INFJs can sometimes feel maybe like ISFPs and those types, what I mean? Like the IPs mostly, because we're pretty stubborn about wanting to do what we want to do, but it's still in relation to what other people want us to do. So the idea here is that comparison can lead us down one or two roads. We can go down this path of drama, which is in relation to conflict, or we can go down a path of empowerment, which is a place of competition and seeing people that you're making choices to compare yourself to people who are actually in the spaces that you're in and being able to grow and develop that way, versus being in conflict where you're kind of constantly fighting against people who don't resonate with you and are not in your kind of dynamic sphere of your life circumstances. Those are when typically conflicts tend to occur. So comparison is this constant flex and flow point that if you were around different people, surrounding yourself by different, that's a lot of wind. Again, I picked the worst day to do this, but we're going to try it. And if it's not offensive, first of all, if you're watching this or listening to this, and it's not a completely offensive thing for this to be happening right now, let me know in the comments. I could use the feedback. If you would rather that I just wait, let me know that too. That's totally fine. I just wanted to get it done. So that's the thing. So this whole dynamic personality idea, while I get sidetracked, this dynamic personality idea is about not necessarily bending to society. It's not about pandering. It's not about letting other people or other situations dictate your vibe or what you're trying to do for yourself. But it's that life circumstances on a big scale and even in micro ways are going to have effects on how you react to these things. We are constantly reacting to the circumstances around us, like me reacting to the leaves swirling just beneath my feet and causing all sorts of madness and noise. we're constantly reacting to our environments. That's why we as INTPs, me being an INTP and you most likely as the listener or watcher being an INTP, we're very sensitive to the outside world because we know that we can be influenced by the outside world, and we don't want to be influenced by the outside world. But it's not about, again, having those influences and being a aimless victim to the outside world. But it is about knowing that in personality, by being our dynamic selves, by being able to flow with the ever-changing circumstances of life, of situations, of people, that we can actually remain in control by being someone that is, flowing with the river of life instead of constantly trying to brace against it, right? So one of the things that I felt like in doing this video in particular, is that I was wrestling with this idea. And if you watch the members only video in the community, the members only community, you'll see that I was wrestling with this idea, like, is this a good idea to do this while it's windy? And the thing that it would look very unnatural if I was trying to do this video and I just ignored the wind, right? And I didn't make mention of it. I didn't talk about it. I didn't reference it or bring it into the video. And I didn't flow with it. And I tried to resist against it, right? And I tried to just block, and I was like, oh, there's wind, and I just get frustrated. Instead of just owning it and saying that, this is what's happening. This is the circumstance. And, Molly needs FI time at home. We have a small apartment. I have nowhere else to go right now. I have videos to record. We're going to be out of town next week. I don't have a lot of time. I want to get this done because this is important. This philosophy that I'm sharing with you around dynamic personality is so incredibly important. I feel like a politician when I'm learning how to use my hand signals nowadays. Like I'm talking with my hands more. Yes, this is going to be great. So the idea of this dynamic personality is about flex and flow. And flow is how we're trying to, it's a state that we're all trying to achieve. Like we've felt it in moments. A lot of people who are trying to, drink their feelings away or deal with their emotions by smoking weed or doing recreational drugs and trying to get a sense of peace in their mind, stop their brain from growing crazy, and resisting all of the situations in which they, when I hear things rustling in the woods, I'm like, is there a bear coming? No, I don't think that's the case in here. This is a city park. It'll be fine. But am I, resisting family? Am I resisting connections? Am I resisting getting the thing done that I need to get done? And this idea of dynamic personality is about flow. It's about letting your experience not necessarily dictate every single thought or feeling that you have, but understanding that it does have an influence. And that if we're in the spiral dynamics 2 through 6, which if you're watching this video, you're in there. Like if you're in second tier, there's a chance that you're not even gonna watch this video at all. You're busy doing stuff, right? So if you're in this spiral dynamic space, comparison is an automatic part of our human experience. And to understand that, to just kind of let it happen, to flow with it, but also know that we're selecting, as INTPs in particular, that we are selecting the thoughts, or if you're an INFP, you're selecting the feelings that are coming up as a result of, what your experiences are. So I think sometimes as INTPs, we avoid feeling like, we want to be around people or we want to go in the outside world because we understand unconsciously that there is an influence on us. And we're afraid that that influence is either going to change our thinking or that it's going to change our autonomy, that it's going to be something that grabs hold of us and pulls us towards wanting to solve problems or wanting to make sure other people's needs get met, which is what FE is, right? Our extroverted feeling is wanting to get people's needs met. So if there's a problem, there's an emotional situation, it can be very distracting, and it's something that, kind of takes our attention away from our thinking. And it's not as if we shouldn't manage our exposure to that. What I'm saying is that you have more power than you think you do in those areas. And that when the river of thoughts and feelings happen in your life, when you're experiencing life coming at you, that you still have a moment to breathe, to take it in, to make a choice, to check, to choose what influences are coming into your life, and both externally and then internally making those choices. So there are two things that are basically very true when it comes to this dynamic personality idea, is that it is being protective, setting boundaries about what your experiences are in the outside world, but not being so rigid that you don't experience anything. And also knowing that even if you are experiencing a lot of things, that you get to choose, what it is you do with those things. And if you are experiencing a lot of turmoil in your immediate world, workplace drama, or you're dealing with people who are kind of stuck in their ways and not willing to listen to you when you are actually speaking up and trying to make change happen, that there are people in your context who are not respecting your thinking, they're not respecting your framework, your way of approaching the world, that it's up to you to make that change. You've got to change your environment because your external environment is affecting you. It is changing little things in your feelings and how you're, experiencing your reality. And understanding that your life circumstances are going to ebb and flow and change based on, what's happening around you. Sometimes that's an aspect of getting to, dynamic growth. So the general idea here, as I pull it back yet again, because I go outward and I go crazy, is that it's about knowing that life is going to change, that things around you are going to change, or you yourself are going to change. Even as an INTP, your relationship with your thinking, with logic, is going to change over time. If you're an Enneagram 5, you're going to go from maybe being more of an emo kid with your wing 4 into being a little bit more thinking about the future and a little bit more planning about big picture things and security and stuff like that around your wing 6, or growing backwards and looking into your life as an Enneagram 8, collecting your own personal power and then going forward into joy. That's basically my path. But for you, as if you're an Enneagram 1 or an Enneagram 9, this is stuff we'll probably talk about in relation to INTPs in the future, not something I want to break down right now. But it's about triangulating and this idea of consistent triangulating. These are tools, right? It's not that you need to know the barcode of your personality at every second and every single day. These are not things that are defining who you are. It's about where you are, because there are elements that are tied to your psyche, meaning that, you being an INTP is your brain wiring, but that brain wiring is going to evolve. Your relationship with introverted thinking is going to change. Your relationship with introverted sensing is going to change. Your relationship with your intuition and your feelings are going to change. And sometimes we look at these systems, we read descriptions, we either say they're blatantly wrong, or we say, yeah, that is right, that is who I am, and I'm going to be that way forever. I'm going to be this loser that never gets out of my basement because that is what I am destined to be. It is in the stars, it is God told me that, or whatever the situation is for you. And you're allowing yourself to be rigid and use these descriptions and use these tool sets to define that rigidity for yourself. So I would implore you to use this idea of dynamic personality as a philosophy as you go forward into developing yourself as a human being. That as you grow, as you learn type systems, as you learn spiral dynamics, as you learn Enneagram, as you watch videos on my channel, or as you watch people on other people's channels like Personality Hacker or Truity Labs or Love Who or anybody else that's doing interesting work, that they are not telling you who you are. They're helping you figure out where you are. And where you are is a measure of youth. Maybe you're young and you're inexperienced. Maybe you're mature and you have experience. And that is painting how you show up as a certain personality type. Or maybe you have situations in life which put you into more of the drama triangle space. And then you have other situations that are putting you more into an empowerment space. Or maybe you're in Graves 4 and you have a job and you have this you have a political party and you're kind of in this us versus them space. And, it's going to affect how you show up as an INTP because you're developing skills, you're sacrificing some aspect of who you are as an individual. And then, is that an airplane? What is that? Yeah, that's an airplane. Okay. I don't know if you can hear that, but I'm going to let that pass for a second. Oh, it's right there. Literally just videos, right? This is YouTube. This is me. I'm uncut. I don't do like the jump unless I run out of card space or something, but we just let it go because this is life, right? This is just us talking. We're just hanging out. you're here with me too. And that means that you get to leave a comment, you get to let me know what your thoughts are on everything that we've talked about so far. Does this dynamic personality concept make sense to you? So if you're someone that is in empowerment spaces in different areas of your life, you can also look at yourself as an INTP that is empowered, an INTP that is in a more dramatic space, or an INTP that is mature, or an INTP that is young, or an INTP that is in different Graves levels, or an INTP that is in relation to different Enneagram levels, right? And again, just a reminder that it is not about defining the barcode of who you are. When I say that, it's like, INTP 5 wing 4 IEI or whatever the socionics thing is, and I'm a Graves 4, and you're listing all of these attributes in your Twitter handle, and it's just like, it looks like a barcode. It's a little bit embarrassing in my perspective, where it's like click the thing, it's like, that's who I am. Yep, now you know. You're going to make all the assumptions about me that you want to make, because I'm not actually showing my personality. I'm not actually growing dynamically. I'm just saying that I am this, and this, right? So the philosophy is to grow, to be willing to grow, to be dynamic, to be ever-changing, because you're complex, you're a human being, you're not that simple. And I want to encourage you to remember that you are not that simple. So when I just talked about when it comes to young, mature, dynamic, or dramatic and empowered, I just wrote up this 10-page PDF for INTPs that is a part of our INTP launch kit. I'm going to put a link to that below. I'm going to try to do this for all other personality types, but just this takes a long time to write and to work out. So this INTP launch kit includes a 4-letter code breakdown, cognitive function breakdown, all with advice on growth and how to work with people. It's not just a diagnosis and description, but there are prescriptions in there for growing in certain areas. And it's the same thing with this drama, empowerment, young and mature. There's advice in there for how you can grow dynamically as a human being, and what things look like if you're shifting between these different modes, right? These are states of being. This isn't types. These aren't things that you're stuck in. You're not dramatic forever. You're not empowered forever. Sometimes you go back. Sometimes you go forward. Sometimes you realize that there are things that you didn't learn in childhood that you need to go back and learn to assimilate into your present and bring into your future. These things are dynamic and ever-changing. So INTP launch kit, go hit that in the comments below, in the description below, and then leave me a comment about this video. What stuck out to you? How are you feeling about this dynamic personality concept? How does this really resonate with you? Is this confusing? Does it make sense? Do you want to know more? It's getting windier, so it's probably time for me to wrap up. All of that said, like and subscribe, hit the bell icon, share it with your friends. If you are listening to this on the podcast, I apologize for all the background noise, but I'm doing the best I can. I might re-record this concept in a different way, but I want to get this out to you sooner, as I won't have time in the next few days to do it. So I just want to get it done. And if this is so distracting that you cannot watch this, you probably made it. If you made it this far, thank you. But if you want a new, cleaner version, just let me know. That's totally fine. I love your feedback. I want to know. I want to grow. I want to be a dynamic, growing, ever-changing personality with you, just as you are. And that's the philosophy here at DOPEamine. And that's what I'm going to be taking with me forward in the programs, in the articles, in the podcasts, everything that we're doing here on DOPEamine going forward. And anyone else that I bring onto the platform at some point is going to bring this philosophy with me. I know Personality Hacker is in this space as well, so go listen to them. They're kind of not necessarily using this term, but they're in this space of like dynamic movement and being in personality versus essence and being a complete human being. So anyway, I'm drowning on and on. I love you. Take care of yourself. Take care of your friends and family, and I'll catch you next time on DOPEamine. See ya.